It's hard to describe the feeling that you get when you finally see one of true size. It just, it's a rush that goes through your body, and you can't really describe it. You spend so long trying to hunt for it and chase it, then when you finally see it, it just blows your mind. It makes all the waiting that you've done in the past, it makes it all worth it. And then you lose it, and then now you're gonna start all over. It's funny how that works.
Hawaii is one of the most remote places in the world that is inhabited. There are millions of people living in Hawaii. At some point in time, maybe a million years ago, these volcanoes started to erupt and created the islands of Hawaii. And there's a lot of special culture that came with that. Right there next to the ocean, you've seen the ocean every day. It's part of your life. You're probably gonna do something that day, like surfing or going some point when you live in Hawaii. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there's a little island. You have this hot spot of big fish. These islands, for some reason, just attract big fish. Really had no idea what to expect. We didn't know exactly what boat we were fishing on. The boat itself, called the Huntress, is a 1963 43-foot Merritt. A lot of history with this boat. You had some legendary captains on this boat. You had some legendary fish caught on this boat. You've got the original Black Bart name on this boat that had caught back-to-back granders. There was a lot of good juju going into this trip, and I was excited because to be back in Hawaii, to be able to go fishing for 5 days straight, we pretty much knew that we were gonna catch something. We just didn't know what we were gonna catch in terms of how many or how big, and that was just part of the adventure. So first night getting to Hawaii, we ate dinner, and before you know it, the alarm clock was ringing and it was time to head to the boat. Day one fishing in Hawaii. We got to the boat early in the morning. Captain Jack, Dylan was there, and we loaded up, and before we knew it, we were headed out of the harbor. And it was funny because after, like, I don't know, 5 minutes of basically heading out of the harbor, we started putting lines in, and I'm thinking, like, wait, are we just like fishing here at the harbor? Like, what's the deal? But the really unique thing about Kona is that the water just drops off. It goes from like the beach to 2,000 feet of water, and you're trolling for marlin within reach of land. And it's pretty amazing because right away you put lines in the water and you're fishing. So there's very little downtime. You leave the harbor and it's right to fishing. An hour after we started trolling, we're starting to get a little antsy, we're getting excited, we're like, all right, when's it gonna happen? And I look back and all of a sudden, there's a marlin just jumping out of the water and going after the bait. He grabs the lure on the right-hand side, we start to put everything in the chair, we start to get ready, we get a few cranks on him, and we ended up losing him because that thing came in so hot and just started jumping and jumping, going wild. But it was confirmation that we knew that there was fish there. You know, an hour into trolling, we've already got one potential bite, and we're looking for more.
Yeah, it was a couple hours until I think we got another bite, and same lure, same right long, boom. Gets knocked down, line starts screaming, Pat gets in the chair, they strap him in, and fight was on at that point.
The great thing about marlin fishing is you're pretty much just sitting and you're looking at the lures, and all of a sudden, starting to get later into the first day, later in the day, and we're starting to look around like, okay, maybe it's, you know, been a good day. We've got one so far. We had the one this morning that we saw, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see the right side, the short, the lure just gets taken out. See a big fish come up, swallow it, and just start pulling drag right away. And just from everyone's reaction, you could tell that this was a big fish.
Big fish.
Thanks a few more cranks. Everybody is excited to see the size of this fish right next to the side of the boat. Dylan goes to grab the leader. We get the leader grab. He starts to get tight on the leader, and all of a sudden he kind of falls back and the lure pops, and I guess the fish kind of just threw it off. That thing was going wild. I had never seen a fish move that much water. Like, there was like, just looked like a small whale out there when it came to how much water that thing was moving left to right when it's shaking its head. I had seen swordfish, you know, sailfish and stuff jumping around, but this thing was actually just moving and making waves. We got it right to the back of the boat, and we kind of got to look at it, and right when that lure popped, we just never got it to the side of the boat. But everybody kind of had a pretty good idea that it was at least around 500 pounds. I'm saying it might have been a little bit bigger, but that thing was a monster. I remember just seeing the back of it jumping out of the water. There's something special about being hooked up to a 500-pound marlin. I can't even imagine what a 1,000-pound marlin looks like. Seeing a 500-pounder, you're like, holy crap. And then seeing the pictures of a 1,000-pound marlin hung up on the walls, it's like, it would be like hooked up to a small jet ski or a large jet ski or a small bass boat out there or something. Pretty insane. There is something special about Kona. Not only are there marlin that are 1,000 pounds or more being caught off of Kona, but there are a lot of marlin, there's spearfish, and the fishing conditions. We talked to Jack, the captain, about it, and he said that normally you get about 250 days a year that are pretty much perfect fishing conditions, and then the other, you know, few days of the year might get a little bumpy out there. He said if your sunglasses get salt on them, that's probably a bad day in Kona. So in terms of the fishability, there probably really is nowhere in the world that is going to have those consistent of conditions, and then also somewhere in the world that has caught that many granders. It's just crazy. Everywhere you go when you're walking around Kailua, Kona, there is, you'll see big marlin. The hotel had marlin. All the restaurants have marlin on the wall. We were excited to not only be there and to get to experience it, but also for a chance to catch a 1,000-pound marlin. Not many places in the world that you're gonna go and you think like there's a chance, like at any moment, at the next fish that we catch could be a 1,000-pounder. Waking up at 5 o'clock every morning and going fishing all day, coming back, going to sleep, I don't know what would be better than that, my friends. We were pretty much just on the boat all day, enjoying the beautiful scenery. There really is nowhere in the world where you're fishing and you're looking and there's a volcano and there's all this amazing stuff. And it's just so surreal. Everywhere you're looking is just epic. And Kona was providing. It was constantly action. We caught a big ono, we caught multiple marlin, and it just kept building and building. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, like at some point here, you know, like it's gonna get a little, you know, either slow down or it's gonna get even crazier. And it just kept providing. Like we just kept getting bites, and Jack and Dylan really provided a great time for us. I know Danny had a great time, and we were just like in that zone, man. You'd wake up, you go fishing, go to sleep, and wake up and go fishing again. So I was asking Dylan some facts on the Huntress, like how many fish they'd caught for the season, if they'd caught a double, if they caught a large one, you know, like what was the overall stats, and had there been any days where they didn't catch a fish? And he said, I think like out of the 30 days or whatever that he had fished so far, they had one day where they had not had catch a release of a marlin. I said, well, you know, how many times have you guys had a double? And he said, well, I actually haven't had a double this yet for his season so far. I think Jack might have had a double earlier, but we had two kind of polar opposite ideas, right? The idea of getting a double hookup, and then the idea of not catching a fish for an entire day. And on the third day, we actually got to experience the double because we had a fish come in, we saw it come in and eat, and start going crazy, and I start to get tight, and all of a sudden, Danny's hooked up on the second fish. So we experienced the double header. We had two marlin hooked up. We got both releases. Me and Danny fighting that fish like it was the end of the world in terms of making sure we got that double and got it to the boat. But everybody was hyped up, and after that day, who would have thought that the very next day we would catch 0? So we headed out fishing early in the morning, and we spent the whole day on the boat watching lures do nothing. And the kind of, I don't know if it's frustrating or just the interesting thing about marlin fishing is the lures are constantly moving around. They're like making splashes and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So you spend a lot of time just sitting there staring, and you're staring and you start seeing stuff. Is that a bill? You see that splash? Danny, you see that? You know, you're like literally just creating reasons to get excited because you've been sitting on a boat an entire day. And by no means were we upset, because we had already had an insane 3 days of fishing with the guys, but we were like, okay, you know, that happens sometimes. Like, sometimes you don't get them. And that was the 2 different sides of the story, right? We had the 3rd day where we caught 3 fish. We caught a Stripe Marlin, insane day of fishing. And then on the 4th day, we caught none, 0. That's fishing sometimes, my friends. We had actually only planned to fish 4 days. We were gonna be in Hawaii for 6 days total. The first day was just a scratch because we flew in, and we had 4 solid days of fishing. And on the 4th day, not catching one, I was like, well, we flew out at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and I'm like, well, I think we can definitely make the plane. I asked Danny and the guys, I'm like, y'all cool with fishing on Tuesday as well? You're not gonna be able to shower. We're gonna have to fish all day and then go to the airport and fly home for 10 hours.
End of the day, 8 hours out there, we still don't have a bite. Ended up not catching a single thing on Thursday. That was supposed to be our last day. Thank God Patrick was like, hey, we're here. I know we go home tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We got to catch our flight pretty late, but you guys want to fish one more day? I'm not going to sit there and try to pull teeth or anything. I mean, I'm excited to be here. That's all I want to do is fish, so he doesn't have to try to convince me at all.
Luckily, nobody fought me, and we went out fishing on the 5th day with really high expectations, but also kind of like we had already accomplished what we wanted to by going to Hawaii and catching blue marlin and filming them and doing what we did. So it was like the 5th day was kind of like, all right, anything that happens from here is just a bonus, and it's gonna be a good day either way. So getting on the boat at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're excited to go fishing, and we really had no expectations other than just having a good day. Day 5 started out pretty slow as well. But I kind of like to live with the idea that if you pay your dues, you have a couple slow days, well then you're due for a good day. And not that we all, you know, had multiple slow days, but I felt like that very slow day of not getting even a bite, I'm like, we gotta get a bite. We gotta get at least one. It's the last day. We're here in Kona. Let's make it happen. So after a few hours of trolling, we're hooked up, baby. Alrighty. Come on, baby. living in Hawaii, I definitely had a certain appreciation for the island and being able to experience what we experienced, being able to meet the people that we met, and just to get lucky, to go there and to catch 9 blue marlin, 1 striped marlin. We saw, you know, multiple fish jumping. We saw a lot of action. And I told everyone, I'm like, I've been on a lot of trips around the entire world, and I think Kona easily provided top five best trips of my life in terms of going somewhere with a plan and then everything working out perfectly. The conditions were good. We caught a lot of fish. We had a lot of fun, and it's hard to complain. You know, when you set out to do something, you set out to go out and catch a fish, or you want to win a tournament, or you go on a trip. There's always goals with everything in life, and to be able to go to Kona with very little planning, with really like zero knowledge of what we were getting ourselves into other than what we'd seen on social media. And a lot of times you see stuff online and you go places and you get there and you're like, I thought you guys caught blue marlin here. And then you get there and people aren't actually catching fish, because that's just how it is. People post stuff online, and then when you get there, it's over because the bite's gone and it's back to normal stuff. So really just to be thankful of being able to go there, to meet the guys, you know, on the Huntress. Jack was phenomenal in terms of just like getting us in the chair, getting us tight, talking about kind of how they do things differently. He's learned from some legendary captains there on Kona. I mean, there's so many just guys that have been innovating and kind of pushing the sport of blue marlin fishing there on Kona for the last 20, 30 years. To be able to go there and to experience it, for us, you know, we thought like, oh, not that, maybe we didn't think, but you know, hey, we're some hotshot tournament winning sail fishing guys from South Florida. And to go there and be in a totally different, and to be in a totally different world, you know, totally different style of fishing, and to see how they do things and think like, oh, that's kind of smart, and then talk to them about how we do things. And I think there definitely was a, you know, a little bit of admiration for both sides of the coin. You know, we kind of do things differently with live baiting. They do stuff with the lures, and just to see how focused they are on making those lures perfect. You know, they're in there sanding and moving stuff around and like tying for hours, and most of the time you're looking like, what are they even doing over there when they're playing with those lures? But they know what they're doing, the same way that when we get live bait out and we hook it a certain way and we bridle it and we put it on the kite and we want to get it out there and we want to make it look the best that we can, they're doing the same thing with the lures there in Kona. So it was honestly just a great overall learning experience. I've never been more fired up to go out and go blue marlin fishing than I am now after reeling in 7 of those bad boys. It was definitely an honor to get to fish on the Huntress and kind of just get to see what the Kona fishery is all about. I think a lot of people have been sleeping on Kona. So if you want to catch blue marlin and you want to go and you want to pretty much be guaranteed to have good fishing conditions and you want to have a good time, I would definitely hit the guys up on the Huntress. Hit Jack up. I'll put a link down to his website below. It's an experience like you're never going to have with any other fishing in the world. You're going to go there and catch a big blue marlin, and it's going to be a story that you're going to tell people for the rest of your lives. So definitely a just epic journey, and looking forward to more fishing trips to come. Where else can we go next? We've already been talking about Costa Rica, Guatemala, Mexico. Who knows? It's going to be fun. Let's go.